This is Curious Brain Farts.
Lou, I'm curious. Why don't you see baby pigeons?
Why don't you see baby pigeons?
That's what I said.
Because
Yeah.
they only fledge from the nest when they're adults.
Very good.
Is that right?
It's a prolonged nesting period. About 30-something weeks.
Is it actually?
Yeah, it's actually.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh.
And the other thing I'm curious about,
Mm.
if the speed of light is nearly 300 million metres per second, what's the speed of dark?
Well, I think you'll have to talk to a physicist about that. Because let's ask, what's his name? Professor Thing. Off of D.
Yeah.
Ream. Things can only get better.
Yeah.
That guy, what's his name?
Just like the podcast. Things can only get better.
What's his name?
Oh, Nigel Cox? Neil Cox?
No! Nigel's the name of my dog.
No, something Cox. Brian Cox.
That famous name that begins with a N.
No, the Big Lebowski. I love his programs, by the way, because you watch them and go, yeah, oh my gosh, that makes sense. And then you go, hey, Lou, I saw this program
I know.
about the...
and it's suddenly smoke on the water and you cannot. Yeah, so anyway, this quantum mechanics...
You know how the atoms move?
So I know how black holes work, Paul.
Right, tell me, go.
So what happens is...
Yes.
There's a... What's the name? There's a singularity.
Right.
In outer space.
Is that the absence of your understanding of the black hole, the
Yes.
singularity?
And then there's something to do with gravity. And then it pulls your legs off.
And you're buggered? I love that.
Yeah, you're welcome, everyone. So that's physics explained.
So maybe we should just rename our podcast to Stuff Explained.
Really badly / wrongly.
No, you can't have that. It makes the title too long. Stuff Explained. Really badly / wrongly.
That could be the subtitle.
Yeah,
That could be the strap line.
Yeah. Love that. The Big Lebowski. Bryce Dane Cox. Oh, dear.
Oh, he's doing his best, love him. We just don't get it.
No.
He's explained it in the simplest way he can. That actually he's on a very good programme on Radio 4. I listen to Radio 4 because I'm a boomer.
BBC Radio 4.
Excuse me. And it's called The Infinite Monkey Cage. And it's very good. And they talk about all sorts of things that you understand in the moment. None of which I can recall. But it's quite light-hearted of tone.
Great.
Yes.
So, yeah, Brian. I mean, speed it up, please.
Go.
If you're listening. And anyone who might be interested. Oh, actually, got to do that again. Who?
Someone take the reverb button away from Paul.
Oh my gosh. Hours of endless fun. So, yes, if you'd like to get in touch with us for some reason.
Just to hurl abuse.
Then send that by post. So abuse can come by post, which is to Curious Brain Farts, England. P.O. Box.
123.
Yes. In Get Lost Land.
The world. The universe. Do you remember that when you go,
The universe. I tell you what, no, it's kind of like Santa Claus. Because if you just put on there 2 Curious Brain Farts and stick it in the post, it will find its way to us.
Yes. But if you've got something pertinent, relevant, complimentary
Push the boat out.
that you would like to say, if there is something you want us to be curious about, then there's a different mode of communication.
Carrier pigeon.
And it is as follows. Make sure it's a fully fledged pigeon. And if you can't find one of those, then it's curiousbrainfarts@gmail.com. So, This week, that was Nigel. That wasn't me.
Lou's feeling really cross after that last segment. Send me some posters.
Do you want to rummage, Paul,
Oh,
in your post sack, or shall we do the random theme? What do you call it? What would you prefer?
I think we should go with the. I think we're going to go. I want you to fire up the what's it called? The thing I can't remember the name of.
The random
Yes.
theme generator.
Generator.
Okay, I'll be back. I'm just going to go and do that.
Oh, okay. Awkward.
Tell a joke. I'll be back in a sec. Right, Paul. I've done it.
Okay, good. Thankfully.
At last.
Everyone was laughing, by the way, at that last joke.
Finally, it's happened to me.
amazing.
Right, so here we go.
Anyway.
Random theme generator. Random theme generator.
And, therefore, what's the little bit of paper saying as it spits out from the machine?
Did you change the printer ribbon?
Oh, God. Nigel, did you change the printer ribbon?
He looked at you with a start then, didn't he?
Yeah, no, I did, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, it's a nice vermilion colour.
Oh.
It was that printer ribbon was in the back of the cupboard. It'd been there a while, so.
Oh, sorry. Yes, the question. Yes, what's it spitting out? Spontaneity.
Spontaneity. Oh, you are awful. Right, well, I'm going to look that up.
Good. So whilst Lou's looking that up, for those of you who have listened to an episode of this before, you'll know that it's really slick and smooth. And that's possible because we literally do this ad lib. And that's interesting.
Because, Paul,
Yes. Louise.
without any pre-planning whatsoever,
Yes.
the Cambridge definition of spontaneity is the quality of being natural rather than planned in advance.
Oh, nice.
A way of behaving in which you do what feels natural and good whenever you want to, rather than planning things first. And there you have it.
There you have it. So the only box we don't tick is the fact that we have to plan the recording.
Yes.
We
You can't spontaneously record a podcast.
No.
That's quite challenging.
It is, and possibly unfair on the parties. If you suddenly thrust a microphone in someone's face and go, "We're doing a podcast." So that bit we don't tick.
No.
Everything else.
We do. Because we do not pre-prepare in any way.
And that, is not clear to anyone.
No, agreed. It's slick as you like. They're like, God, they must spend weeks
Absolutely ages.
scripting this fella.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the Yellow Pages
Right,
per episode.
there we are. So, natural is the word. Being natural
Yeah.
rather than being planned in advance.
Interesting. Huh. It's great that we've got so much to say. I like the pauses, though, because that shows that we're actually having to think about this stuff, as well as the quality of our output. And spontaneity, one area that popped into my head straight away was like with Edinburgh Festival and stand-up comedians, the need, and any live production.
Yep.
So yes, you have live TV and it's scripted, and you've got live theatre and and you need to be ready to respond naturally and authentically if something were to go wrong.
Yeah. So the extreme version is improv, if you like, You just get given a theme and off you go, or whatever it is. But as you rightly say, in any performance, whatever it is, and that even goes down to when we facilitate things.
Mm-hmm.
So Paul and I will design something, and we've got a particular way of doing that, which really, really works for us. And, so we might, I'm thinking of things we've done in the past, that they run over a number of days, and our notes for that are 3 pages.
Yep.
Because we don't need that level of detail. In that way, it's pre-designed, but it's not scripted to that level of detail. So you show up, and it gives you room to be spontaneous, to meet the people in the room where they are.
Mm-hmm.
So no 2 bits of delivery are the same, even though the topic might be the same.
And the design is the same.
And the design is the same. And the other thing that we always have, our little mantra before we start is, no design survives contact with reality.
I thought you were going to say the one where we stand and hold hands and go, oh God, I hope it doesn't go wrong.
But in that way, it's good, because the spontaneity relieves that there is no such thing as going wrong, because actually we've spent much longer talking about the qualities of servant leadership than we thought. And then, Paul took one group over there, and I took that. None of that was in the design. That was us reacting and being spontaneous in the moment. And we being able to do that shaped a much richer experience for the people than if we'd stuck to a rigid plan. But we do have to have both, is my thought. You have to have a plan and then be comfortable to deviate.
I think the other thing that's super important with that type of spontaneity is all the prep. So you can't turn up to something like that where you're in a room with senior leaders that you need to keep occupied for 4 days, 3 days, whatever, and not have spent some time preparing, thinking about, researching, understanding, questioning, challenging, doing all of those things. You then do the parallel with like a stand-up comic. They will have their standard thing that they've spent a long time prepping.
Yeah.
And they've also been prepping for the fact that they will get heckled or whatever else. And you need to be able to adjust. So they don't just walk in a room and go, I hope it's going to be fine. Like, I've never done this before. I'm going to just go off and do it. Spontaneity works best when it's, as the definition says, when it's natural.
Yes.
Like, I don't like to bang on about it. I play the drums. All right, whatever. Calm down. And to be able to be spontaneous, you need to have done, like with lots of things, some fundamentals, some practice, some preparation to be able to be spontaneous. So the thing, like with the work that we do, although the design doesn't look chunky or our facilitation notes are like 3 sides of A4, we will have spent a significant amount of time preparing.
Yes. And you could argue we've spent 10 plus years honing our craft, practicing our skills, fine-tuning all of these capabilities that enable us to be spontaneous. So if you are able... So I sometimes see people who are very new to, for example, presenting, and they are talking and they've got it really planned in their head. They've almost got a script. And they are like, blah, blah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, A, B, C, E, F. And they're like, oh my God, I missed out D. And I always say to people, the audience don't know what you're going to say. They only know you fluffed up if you tell them. So when you've got something that's too rigid and you then deviate from that, it can throw you off. So, and the less experienced and the less comfortable people feel, the more I see them planning and scripting what they're going to do.
Yeah.
the more mastery you have, the less because you can fall back on your skills and on your experience, and your lived experience is A, I'm really good at this stuff, and B, I can use that capacity that's released from knowing that I'm really good to really look at who's in the room and make sure that they're getting the experience that they need.
It's interesting. I was just thinking about a situation when I was asked to give a big presentation with somebody else to a whole massive group. This was probably 20 years ago or something.
Mm-hmm.
And the very senior person, the general manager, demanded that it was scripted. Possibly for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
You know, timings, blood, whatever. And surprise, surprise, it didn't come across all that great.
No.
Because that wasn't how myself and the other person were familiar with doing things.
Yes.
And it's not just about familiarity. It was also, it gave no room for anything to be different.
Yeah.
Particularly when you're doing something interactive like
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
So you can understand for newsreaders,
Yeah.
you know, they have to read the auto cue. They've also got someone whittering in their ear roll in case something goes on. So they need to be able to also be spontaneous.
That's right.
And break out of
Yeah.
the auto cue and go into a live situation.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, breaking news, this just in. Yeah, that kind of... So it is interesting because I find that if I'm in a situation which stops me from doing some of the things that come naturally to me, and I'm thinking about conference presentations that I've done in the past, where one in particular, there was a lectern.
Yeah.
And there was an expectation that you stood behind this lectern.
I just stood there.
And I walk up and down, I use my hands, I'm quite
She's
expressive.
on and off the stage.
I'm stage diving.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's standard, right?
it's all happening. But and then I looked down on the floor and there were two lights, a green light and a red light. And when the red light went on,
You were dead.
You had 5 minutes.
Ah.
Or 2 minutes or 1 minute. I can't remember. I just completely ignored all of it.
Yeah.
And they got really eggy because it was quite a stuffy, formal. So I found that really uncomfortable. It didn't work for me and it didn't work for them because the way that it's the same point that you're making, the way that was imposed on me by the form of the thing that they were running, it just did not work for me. I like to have a bit of flex and freedom. That's definitely my preference. And we all like a bit of spontaneity in our lives. What does it say if somebody's micromanaging you? What is the message?
That's right. And also, you know, the ability to say, oh, actually, instead of eating in, we're going to eat out tonight.
Yeah.
Or whatever comes naturally, you know. I'm going to put some music on. It doesn't have to be something big. There are elements of spontaneity. I'm going to do the washing now, so later.
Calm down. What?
Yeah. Spontaneity. And so, one of the things we don't talk about enough, I don't think anyway, about the podcast is it is all off the cuff.
Yeah.
We're winging it in as much as we don't know what we're going to say and we don't know what the topic is.
No. And
to your earlier point, we're leaning on all of our years of experience and whatever else to support us and guide us in that we know it'll be all right.
Yep.
And we know that we'll be able to come up with something.
And do you know the other thing that really helped me is that when we decided to do this podcast, we said that the only real reason we were going to do it is because we would enjoy it. And that was it. And that we didn't want it to be anything, do anything, go anywhere, or it might do those things and that's great, but that's not why we are doing it. So I didn't feel like I had to do anything other than be my natural self. Do you know what I mean? We're not like building an audience or blah, blah, blah. So because it was just about us having a laugh and just noodling through and putting into a podcast, basically the conversations that we had anyway, it did feel very natural. And therefore, all of that room for spontaneity was 100% there. I have no evidence that if you and I start noodling on a topic, we can't come up with one or two interesting notions.
Yeah, 100%.
So I was able to just go, okay, fine. I'd never done a podcast before. No idea. And all of that was completely new and out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
But the thing I think that enabled the spontaneity was the strength of our dynamic, our relationship, our trust. So you have to, in other words, in order to be spontaneous, you have to have a foundation of some kind of safety, some kind of security, something to stand on. Otherwise, it can feel a bit
difficult to be spontaneous.
I
otherwise.
think so.
Yeah.
So how lucky are we that we're able to be this spontaneous?
Yeah. And it's also, going back to the definition, it's available to everybody. And that doesn't mean that everybody wants to do something like this. Some people, it would be terrifying, the idea of having a microphone shoved in front of them and you're going to talk for 20, 30, 40 minutes about something you don't know anything about yet. That doesn't mean that needs to be your version of spontaneity.
No.
Which I love. It wasn't ours until January 2024.
God,
That's when we started the podcast.
That's right. We've chosen it for ourselves.
And now we're in the year 2036. We have 43 billion trillion listeners across the galaxy.
Yeah, the point is, that, like you say, it's available, it's a choice, and if you notice that you are able to be spontaneous, then what you can also notice is that you have a real sense of safety in that moment for whatever context or setting, because without it, you're just, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to do it, I don't think, if I didn't feel safe in whatever way.
It is an important point. And belief in yourself. And I guess to some extent, it's not strictly necessary, maybe, to some extent, belief in the setting or the externals. The reason why I say it's not necessarily strictly necessary, because I've been part of panel discussions and all sorts of things, particularly when I had big corporate jobs. And you go to a thing with
there's blah blahs,
500, 1,000, but whatever.
Yeah.
And you're part of a panel. I don't necessarily. I'm not like going, oh yes, I really deeply believe in this thing. I do believe in myself though. That I'll be able to show up in a way that is good for me, good for the organisation, good for the industry or whatever.
Yeah. Belief, it has to start there.
Yeah.
We love it.
We do love it. The other thing that's really good with spontaneity that we've had, because the mailbag, we don't necessarily read everything out of the mailbag.
I said that we did, actually.
Oh. That's a moment of spontaneity. No, as in we read it, we don't necessarily read it out.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Sorry, that was my point.
Right, with you.
A spontaneous counter-argument. Is that people have enjoyed the spontaneity because we're able to have a laugh and we have this vibe with each other, and then within an instant we can go quite deep into something.
Yeah.
And the vibe is completely different. And then we can bounce straight back out again or whatever. We can be all over the place spontaneously, vibing together because of the amount that we believe in what it is we're trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that is lovely.
I do too. And so a nice blend and mixture. And if you're not comfortable with any spontaneity at all,
That's something to get curious about.
Absolutely right.
So maybe we could pose to the listeners, what is it that you are comfortable being spontaneous about?
And I would also offer and venture to suggest a little challenge. So once you've tuned in and noticed what you feel comfortable being spontaneous about, how could you do that just 1% more?
It's not enough, is it? Just want more. Very good.
We love it.
We do. We do.
We do.
It's no lie.
No.
Right then, when do we spontaneously end?
I
Now.
Well, I think we could spontaneously do some interpretive dance, but that doesn't come across well
No,
on
that's good.
radio.
Yeah, right. Okay, so for the next 3 seconds, we're going to do the best spontaneous dance you've ever seen. Ready? Starting now.
Go. I'm doing it, guys.
Oh my gosh. That was more than 3 seconds. Absolutely amazing.
Chamaze balls.
I nearly slipped a disc.
Right, so you listeners, just be grateful this is not a video podcast. That's all I'm going to say about that.
No animals were harmed in the making of
That
that spontaneous dance.
Very suspect.
Does it? Why? No animals were harmed. Nothing suspect about it. Jeez.
Right, so
Yeah.
anyway,
What?
I'm spontaneously going to combust.
Right. Okay. That means a big fart's coming. Let's end it. Bye.
Bye.
Curious Brain Thoughts.